3-0 victory in the end then for Newcastle at St James's Park, Cass. And ultimately, as he said there, it was a confident performance and a performance Newcastle needed.
Yeah.
They have suffered recently.
Yeah, and luckily we've got a producer who's a Wolves fan who...
he wants to gloss over this.
He gloss over everything that Wolves had, literally the classroom on their bench, which they had a number of young players, didn't they?
They did.
And changes were made by Wolves, Gary O'Neill. A much-needed result, and a little bit fortunate with some of the incidents that happened in the game, some of the goals, deflections or goalkeepers made a bit of an error.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's. I've not quite. Sometimes I get frustrated in that when I'm thinking of teams and thinking how much criticism have been around them. Newcastle have taken quite a lot of questions about Eddie Howe and him and the manager, and I think, come on, get real. We need to get real where Newcastle are and what they have achieved during this season, which is done really well for large parts. Big result, they've jumped above Wolves, haven't they?
Yes.
They're in pretty healthy state.
They are up to 8th, and so they're 2 points off 7th place West Ham, 4 off Manchester United as things stand, with United in 6th position. So a big victory for Newcastle, capping off a good week after they, of course, reached the quarterfinals of the FA Cup following their penalty shootout victory over Blackburn. But the defeat came at a cost to Wolves. They picked up further injuries. Jose Sarr had to go off, their keeper, at half-time, as did Pedro Neto, who has had a few injuries this season. But
he went off half-time, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Both of those went off at half-time. Yeah. Both, Neto in particular, very influential in that Wolves side. And it seems as though Wolves now, who have been one of the fortunate sides, I'll say, every team has suffered injuries. They have been a bit more fortunate with their injuries, but it feels like now this season is taking its toll a little bit, and they're picking up a few more now. Well,
they've had some bigger games. They've had some big away victories. What they did at Chelsea, what they did at Tottenham. They've had a really decent season. So
absolutely.
Reflecting back on where they are now, it was a bad day at the office yesterday for Wolves and no more.
Yeah, you mentioned questions being asked of Eddie Howe. Well, that certainly is still happening with Mauricio Pochettino at Chelsea. They drew 2-2 with Brentford in a West London derby at the G-Tech Community Stadium. The Blues boss, Mauricio Pochettino, reflected on the past week when he spoke to talkSPORT after that draw.
So disappointed with the final because we were so close and we were better side, and then beat Leeds and then today the draw and being the best team again. Yeah, disappointed because I think we didn't get what we deserve. But it's about to keep believing and moving forward, because I think the team is young and need to learn from this type of situations.
Okay, so he feels that they perhaps deserve more out of that game than that point. I'm not sure actually they did in the end. I think a point probably was fair between the two sides. Brentford weren't particularly great in the first half. Chelsea took advantage. Nicholas Jackson, who had moments before, glorious chance, I showed you it, didn't I, where he could have put Chelsea 1-0 up, rounding the Brentford keeper, Mark Flecken, and then had a poor shot, really, that was mopped up by Zanka, but he made up for it not long after with a great header after Malo Gusto had played a super deep ball into the box, Cass. But Brentford came out with real intent in the second half, got themselves back into it through Mads Ruslev in the 50th minute. Wissa, my goal of the week, getting a great goal to put Brentford 2-1 up. And then Chelsea got their equaliser late on in the 83rd minute through Axel Disasi. Do you know what I found quite interesting? And I know Chelsea of late have had a difficult time in terms of
they haven't lost in 6, have they, on the pitch?
No, but I'm talking in general with the ownership, the managerial bit of a merry-go-round of late with Tuchel, Potter, Lampard, obviously Pochettino. I was really surprised at how quick the Chelsea fans in that game turned on their players and on the manager and the owner. At the start, they were brilliant, the Chelsea fans. They were loud. They were, causing a great atmosphere in their little corner of the ground. And when they went 1-0 up, they continued that. As soon as they went 2-1 down, wow, did it turn? Did it become toxic? Did they start going for Pochettino, basically telling him to get out? Similar with Todd Bowley. I'm pretty sure there was talks and a chance of either come back or sign up Mourinho. Things like that. It was quite bizarre how quickly it turned.
Yeah.
And it feels as though it feels like it could get worse before it gets a lot better.
Yeah, look, in the start of February, Chelsea went to Villa Park and won in the Cup, and 3-1. and nobody really felt any, even diehard Chelsea fans didn't think they were going to go there and the way they did. They took Villa apart that day, and that was a really surprise. In that meantime, they've played well against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup. Could have won that in normal time, lost the game. Got a 1-1 draw, Man City. Again, another good performance. Haven't lost in 6, 3 wins, 3 draws. The Chelsea fans are in the past to what's happened at that club. They have won and been
living in the past.
Absolutely, they've had so much success, and I get that as a fan. I'm a fan of a club that had periods of when it was a drought, everything turned toxic, and we want Paisley back or Kenny to come back, and all them things have happened. And Chelsea are a club that are suffering because they've seen the demise of their football club, as in a mid-table team. And I think that it's making them angry.
But is getting rid of Pochettino the answer then?
No, not at the moment. I do think that there's... I'm hearing the same sort of press conferences from Poch, which is, we're learning and we're young team. So it's the same sort of ideas are coming out after, a poor result. Brentford, a lot of teams have gone to Brentford and got beat up and come away with a bloody nose. I just think I think he knows the fans are hugely frustrated, and it doesn't take a lot for Chelsea to turn. That's clear. There are some London clubs that are a bit more hostile, and Chelsea I'd put in that bracket. They have, I say, spoil. They were so used to, and they were so used to, bigging up their team and how good they were, and we'd come on radio and talk about great players at that football club. What great player can you talk about at Chelsea now? One player you go, what's a great player? He's making a difference.
No.
You can talk of players like Conor Gallagher doing well. You can talk of, Reece James when he's fit is a top talent. But you had that in every position at Chelsea at their best. Every player was a top player with 50, 40, 60 caps.
Yeah. What I will say is there were a few boos for the home side as well at half-time,
going
1-0 down. Now, I've looked up, as I do, to see what the fans were saying. Thomas Frank even spoke about it in his post-match news conference where he was asked about the boos, and he was like, I thought I heard boos, and he wasn't happy about it. And I'm sort of siding with Thomas Frank on this one. We've had such an amazing 2 seasons in the Premier League. This season has been difficult. Injuries, again, big issue for us, like it's been for a lot of teams. Some are saying they were booing the referee. Some are saying they were booing that first half performance. It wasn't a great first half performance, absolutely. But they upped it in the second half, scored 2 goals. Will feel maybe disappointed that yet again they've dropped points from winning positions. 28 points, Cass, they've dropped.
It's enormous.
It's huge. Huge.
Yeah.
Imagine if they had held on to those 28 points, it would be a very different story. And Brentford will be, they'd be, where would they be roughly? Let me look where we are. 26. Have you had that? 46.
We'd be in the top 4.
We'd be potentially 5th. Oh my goodness me, what a different season it would be. But as it is, Brentford are 15th, so it's a point that took them above Everton. They're 6 points clear of the bottom 3.
If ifs and ands were pots and pans.
Oh, I know. I like to live in the ifs and buts, but anyway, as it is, it was a draw shared between in that West London derby between Brentford and Chelsea. Now, huge game coming up today, which has implications on the title race, on the top 4 race as well. It's the Manchester derby. We'll look ahead to it.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.